Hey guys, welcome back. We have another week of astrology to get into. This is a very transitional week energetically. Saturn is at the 29th degree of the sign of Pisces, the last degree of the zodiac from the Western tropical perspective. And on Sunday this week, Saturn will enter the sign of Aries. This is a huge energy shift, but between now and then, we're honestly just kind of like hanging by a thread. This week may be very centered around endings, loss, what we're letting go of, what we're moving on from. And there could also be a breakdown in authority, rules, regulations, control. This is another week where things could really be sort of all over the place. I don't know that anybody's really going to be staying very much in line. It is a state of flux, and it's definitely a more free-flowing energy, I would say, than what we're typically accustomed to. So this could be very unpredictable. There's a very powerful Uranian element that is intertwined in everything that's happening this week as well. We still have the Sun and Uranus in a conjunction. Mercury is also moving into a conjunction with Uranus later this week. Actually, when the Sun enters the sign of Gemini, ruled by Mercury, there could be some really strange information or some like focus on freedom or like liberating ourselves from something, some type of like out of the box thinking that could be dominating our week, especially as we get towards the end of the week. We have Venus and Mars in an exact trine this week as well. I would say that is motivating the pursuit of desires. On one hand, we're still in this energy that is really very much favoring people, places, situations coming together synchronistically at the right time. There's a very purposeful, creative, and conception oriented energy between masculine and feminine dynamics going on right now. So that's interesting. And we've got Jupiter squaring the nodes. It's literally like a karmic test point. There is something that we are completing, something that we have, come to the end of, that we have endured through, and we are about to step into something else and have to let go of whatever, defined this previous era of our lives that we are transcending out of now. So you may be experiencing themes along those lines taking place in your life this week. We've got a ton to talk about. Let's get into our report, you guys. Let's put all this together, see if we can get an idea of where we're at energetically to get the week started and where we're going as we head through the weekend towards the weekend. Welcome back to my channel, you guys. Today is Monday, May 19th, 2025. My name is Aubrey. This is your astrological outlook of the day, where we are narrating the shifts of the ages. And if you guys stick with me until the end of this report, I have done a collective tarot reading for us today as well. I like to tap the energy field for more than one modality whenever I'm doing these energy overviews, just to get an alternative energetic perspective on what's going on out there. So there could be some messages in there for you. We are going to do that at the end. Lots of astrology to get into. This week is a bit of a continuation of the energy of last week. If you guys remember what I was talking about in my videos for last week, I was saying how the lines and the edges of things are not sharply defined right now. There is this breakdown in tradition and convention and structure and foundation and belief that is either underway or that is going to soon be underway as we move through this week and even into next week as a result of the Saturn placement right now. We are culminating a approximately 30-year transit of Saturn around the entire zodiac right now from the Western perspective. Saturn is at the very last degree of the zodiac. As we move through the week this week, Saturn inches further and further through that very last degree of the zodiac, and then on Sunday enters the sign of Aries. Now, Saturn entering the sign of Aries generally would bring, I think, a bit more of a vibe shift than it is going to right now, because of the fact that Neptune happens to also be in the very early degrees of 1 degree of the sign of Aries right now, and Neptune actually rules Pisces. So even after Saturn enters Aries, there's still going to be this strong Neptunian, Piscean-ish influence that's going on. So it is going to take us a couple of weeks, I think, to really start to feel the vibe shift resulting from Saturn's transit into the sign of Aries. But regardless, this week, and especially especially on Thursday of this week, you guys, the moon, who will be transiting the sign of Pisces this week, is going to come into exact alignment with Saturn in the last couple of degree minutes of the sign of Pisces on Thursday, like really, really heavily emphasizing whatever that 29 degree Saturn energy is doing for us in our lives. So you're probably, of all the days this week, going to be feeling it Thursday the most, but once again, I find it incredibly ironic that we would have the moon transiting through the sign of Pisces in the very week that Saturn is finishing his transit of the sign of Pisces as well. Just, really driving home and activating that energetic dynamic. Whenever the moon is aspecting a planet, while that planet is an aspect, it emphasizes that energy. It like triggers it's like a trigger for like energetic expression and manifestation. So whenever the moon is involved in an aspect, we're likely to feel it more, and that's what we've got going on this week as Saturn prepares to conclude this 30-year transit. So there's definitely something ending. Therefore, this is a time of great transition, great flux. It is the death of a way of being, honestly, and we are being energetically pushed to do and become more going forward. It does feel like some critical turning point. The simultaneous square between Jupiter and the nodes of the moon that is also exact this week is adding to and emphasizing this like turning point energy, the need to overcome something, to persevere through something, to actually expand out of something in order to grow, to move forward, to do whatever it is that is meant to come next as this era ends, because that's really what it is, and we prepare to enter this new chapter in our lives, which is going to unfold over the course of the next 30 years. So I do feel like it is generally some great turning happening collectively for us this week. It's the end of something. Karmic cycles are just all over this. And again, there's a very karmic element here, but there's also a very like fated, destined element to things here as well, especially the relationship components that are coming in this week with Mars and Venus also in exact trine. We've got so many things going on. Let me just list them to you so that when I reference them and bring them up, you know what I'm talking about. And then we'll talk about each one kind of individually as we move through this report. But as I've already opened with Saturn at the 29th degree of Pisces, ending this 30-year cycle, about to start us on this new 30-year cycle, that's a big one. Jupiter and square to the nodes, as I also just, briefly mentioned, that's also a big one that is bringing into me these fated karmic elements of things and this like push for growth that is coming after we move through whatever it is that we're transitioning out of right now. We also have this exact Venus-Mars trine and fire signs that's going on this week, and it is bringing this harmonization between divine feminine and divine masculine energy. And with the emphasis on the nodes of the moon right now, while we have the trine between Venus and Mars, I feel like there is like a magnetic attractive component of things that is drawing like aligned counterparts together in order to produce some type of specific result related to our process of growth moving forward somehow, or related to removing whatever blockage or hindrance or limitation or restriction has been holding us back in the past or up until this point in time. This is also a very, very creative influence that we've got going on. And we also have this supercharged Uranian influence as well. Remember, we have just finished moving through our once yearly Sun-Uranus conjunction week. Those two planets are still in an alignment together, even though this energy will wane out throughout the course of the week, but it's still emphasized even as Mercury, or even as the Sun and Uranus separate, because the Sun is actually going to enter the sign of Gemini later this week, and Mercury, the messenger planet ruling the sign of Gemini, will then come into a conjunction with Uranus in the sign of Taurus, as Mercury is currently trailing the Sun. So even after the Sun breaks the conjunction to Uranus and enters the sign of Gemini, changes signs, Mercury is then going to come through, who is going to be in an empowered position because both the Sun and Jupiter are going to be in the sign of Gemini. Mercury is also currently ruling the position of the South Node, karmic endings, karmic release coming into a conjunction with Uranus in the sign of Taurus, which is again highlighting this Uranian energy. Uranus makes the corrections. Uranus is the galactic fixer. In the sign of Taurus, Uranus also functions to remove blockages to growth. So sudden, unexpected change. There could be some wild news that is going on, shocking news, shocking insight, revelations, things being uncovered, things being exposed, mind blown, you know, like hypercharged, conversational, informational, and again, like meeting connection oriented energy, especially as we move towards the end of the week. And so like we've got all that going on, and these are all like quite specific and exact alignments that are creating this like energetic stew that is just emphasizing and repeating over and over and over again, like we've come to the end of something. There has to be some final conclusion, some final release, but we're being supported in that because really it's the only thing that's been holding us back from going through some process of personal upgrade or personal evolution, which we can't run from, we can't hide from. And I do think over this next couple of years with Saturn transiting the sign of Aries, we are going to become more disciplined, like personally, in regards to like taking back authority over our own lives in some type of a way, or being more in control over the directions of things for ourselves. I think there is going to be some personal accountability, some like self-control or self-discipline that just inherently arises within us, starting probably over this next couple of months and then moving forward and kind of defining the next couple of years that we probably aren't feeling now. So if you're not feeling like that at all right now, don't think that you're never going to get there, because it's just going to be something that is like activated and turned on energetically within us, and we're not in that energy yet. But I do think that when that turns on, it's going to be like another one of those things that is just happening during this upcoming period of time that really kind of helps us get our stuff together and like redefine like who we are and what our purpose is, and I don't know, just like more mature and responsible and effective and productive way moving forward, which goes again like along with so much of what the other energetic indications are speaking of right now. And if you guys have been, you know, following my channel, I've been kind of going on and on about these things kind of sporadically and randomly over the past couple of videos, but we are going through a transition of ages right now, you guys. Like, bottom line, moving forward now and over the course of the next greater 2,000 year period of time, from our Earth year perspective, we're going to be defined by a phase of like cosmic expansion, cosmic awareness, and self-actualization on the part of humanity, and I think planet Earth as a whole. And in order to get there, we are beginning to receive these energetic upgrades that are coming through, you know, these frequencies that are being discharged as a result of these aspects right now. And they're going to have these effects and impacts on us that, like, whether we want to or not, whether we think we can or not, whether we believe it's possible or not, whether we can see and envision that for ourselves or not, we're going to end up, again, like now and moving forward, becoming these radically different and redefined versions of ourselves incrementally over time. You know, some people, this is just gonna hit like a Mack truck and they're gonna totally, completely like redesign their lives and their purpose and their sense of like internal authority and their ability to get things done and they're going to totally change their lives, you know, in a split second. Other people, it's going to be a very slow, gradual process that might take years in order for, you know, even small changes to result. It really just depends on how fixed and how dug in we are to the karmic patterns that have been persisting generationally for now. But everybody in one way or another is like, you can't get out of it. Like, we have reached a point of energetic transition as we are moving into the age of Aquarius, and as a result, things are going to start changing that cause us to start changing in ways that reflects that. So it is what it is, and I'm telling you, like, as we move forward over this next couple of years, I think that we're just going to like inherently feel a greater responsibility to like take our life into our own hands and to build it in accordance with you know, what gives us purpose, and maybe a way that we haven't experienced in our life so far, and perhaps in a way that has not been encouraged generationally, just because of the structures that have and the belief systems that have defined our paradigm in the past. And up until this point in time, we're going through a paradigm shift, and therefore I'm telling you, like, and especially with Saturn right now at the very last degree of the sign of Pisces, that has a lot to do with beliefs. Neptune also obviously being the ruler of the sign of Pisces. There are definitely a breakdown in the authorities, the hierarchies of control, the foundations, and that have structured our reality, and the belief systems that we have adhered to, and that perhaps have limited our perspectives in some type of a way. All of that type of stuff is likely to be in a state of flux, all right, as we move forward through this period of time. But something ending here now, it could be, as I've said, this karmic element, karmic cycle, generational situation, or maybe something that has been ongoing for literally the past 30 years. 1996 was when this past Saturn cycle began, and I'm going to talk more about this in my Wednesday video. Actually, I'm going to center in on and really go into some details about the cycle that's concluding and the cycle that's coming up pertaining to the Saturn energy right now. And again, it's the appropriate time to do that then, because the moon in Pisces will be in the conjunction to Saturn on Thursday. But this could also be, Saturn is also test. This could be some test or some lesson. It's also job and career that could be coming to an end, or some type of transition going on in those regards, or something to do with control or submission, things that we've been submitting to, or these hierarchies of control. Could also, in the sign of Pisces, be bringing up things to do with weaknesses or inadequacies or fears, some long journey perhaps, or just some limitation or blockage or restriction or boundary that we have continually come up against, that we are finally coming to a point of moving through somehow. Again, the whole belief system dimension of things, or organizations that have controlled us somehow, or something that perhaps we have been surrendering to, that we're realizing we're no longer going to give ourselves to, or our energy to, or our power to, in some type of way, and again, it's not just the Saturn energy at 29 degrees, okay? It's the Saturn energy at 29 degrees this week, with the moon there, while Jupiter is exactly square the nodes. Saturn is the lord of time and the lord of karma. The south node, this is also karmic endings. We also, another element of this karmic liberation theme that we've got going on this week, is that while Jupiter happens to be in an exact square to the nodes of the moon, okay, Jupiter also happens to be in an exact sextile to Chiron, who is currently in the sign of Aries, which also can have to do with the karmic burden that we carry, and the process of personal alchemy and self-transmutation, the hero's journey that we need to go through over the course of a life in order to liberate ourselves from that karmic burden and ascend into a greater state of self-mastery, aka self-actualization, aka conscious co-creation of our reality with God, Great Spirit, Universe, as is the direction that we're going as we enter this new Aquarian age. So again, we've got it three ways, you guys. We've got the Lord of Karma, we've got the South Node, karmic release, and we've got Chiron ruling our personal transcendence through karmic limitation, karmic liberation, or karmic limitation to karmic liberation, represented through the Chiron archetype. And they're all hitting exactly, it's not oh, we're a couple degrees off over here, we're a couple degrees off over here, we got some wide orbs, but we're just trying to piece things together. No, it's this is an exact hit, this is an exact hit, this is an exact hit. Literally Jupiter exactly square the nodes, Jupiter exactly sextile Chiron, Saturn at exactly 29 degrees, the moon also at exactly 29 degrees, Venus exactly trine Mars. So, and then, Mercury exactly conjunct Uranus this week. So, yeah, it's obviously there's something going on that is, on one hand, putting things right. That's the Uranian influence. On the other hand, it's some fated crossroads that is going to lead to expansion and growth. Jupiter square the North Node. Once we can let go of something and release it, Jupiter square the South Node. Once we can break ourselves out of this karmic cycle, and then Saturn, the Lord of Karma, at the last degree of the zodiac, that would indicate graduating from some lesson learned, okay? Some passing some test, like we've gone all the way around and we should have, you know, gone up a rung, like we should have gained something. And again, like we may not feel it because of the nature of the Piscean energy and also the Neptunian influence right there. Like we may not feel like we've gained anything. Like we may not feel the maturity or the determination or, you know, the endurance perhaps that we've gained through this process until we get a couple of weeks down the road from now, or maybe even a couple of months down the road from now. Again, with Saturn at that degree, it could really feel like everything is falling apart more than coming together. And right now, maybe it is. Again, like, this is not the week to me where we want to put a ton of pressure on ourselves, where we want to, you know, really give ourselves like a packed schedule, where we want to try to like force anything or control anything or have some type of expectation that things are going to go a certain way. Like every single one of those mental frames on life this week is banging your head against a wall and just like putting yourself in a position to be like disappointed or to experience frustration or failure. This week really is about, you know, coloring outside the lines, thinking outside the box, like being impulsive, being spontaneous, a flux and a flow to things, you know, nothing really contained. So if you can align yourself with that energy this week, I just think that you're like, while it may still not be the most like I feel secure, like I am grounded, like I know what's going on, like you may still not feel all that, I don't know, like balanced this week or like grounded or like feel like you got a real good idea of going on. In fact, again, like this could be quite like confusing or disorienting energy, but you know, trying to force it and trying to control it, we just don't have the juice for that this week. So I don't think that it's, you know, where you want to orient your energy. Radical change, the end of a set way of life, on the other hand, that is definitely what we're vibing with. Something has run its course. Things are about to change. Collective disillusionment with traditional beliefs, authority, governance. This is where we're going. Okay, this is, I think, what is going to be happening this week and be emerging over this next couple of weeks. Significant dissolving of authority, rules, structure, tradition that is actually going to lead to a stronger sense of personal authority, self-responsibility, and self-discipline. And you know, it's going to be different for everybody, obviously, the way that this comes about. But again, it's like, it's just going to be something that activates within us that is going to have us more oriented around taking back control of our own destiny, like taking back control of our own lives. Like people are going to be much less willing to like surrender control of things to forces outside of themselves, okay, as we move through this next couple of years with Saturn in the sign of Aries. Saturn is authority, Saturn is control, Saturn is the boss, okay, and then Aries, this is a sign of the self. So we're really going to be bossing up, I do think, as we move forward through this Saturn Aries transit. However, because Neptune is present, okay, in the very first degrees of Aries, and before Saturn really gets to begin the Aries transit, he's gonna have to go through this Saturn-Neptune conjunction. I think that we like literally may be forced to lose ourselves in order to find ourselves, in order to get to that place over this next couple week period of time here. So if you are not there yet, you're not supposed to be there yet, but that is, I do think, where we are heading. Saturn in Pisces in the meantime, though, and this is the energy we've been moving through this past couple of years, is about surrender. It's about loss of control, okay, or avoiding discipline and responsibility rather than addressing it. Obviously, polarly opposite energy as the Saturn Aries energy is likely to invoke within us. And again, that's what we've been moving through. And at 29 degrees of the sign of Pisces, that is the probably like most pure expression of that greater Saturn Pisces energy. Okay, so this could be this total collapse of boundaries, rules, organizations, authorities, these same words I've just been saying over and over and over again. And then when Saturn comes into the conjunction with Neptune, that's a further continued breakdown of this concept of maybe who we are or how we've defined ourselves in the past and how we're going to reorient that moving forward after we go through whatever, I don't know, like Neptunian haze rains down on the Saturn influence when we get into the sign of Aries. Another thing, you guys, and I'm going to have to say this, I'm going to have to talk about this more. Now, I don't want to talk about it, but I'm going to have to talk about it more as we move through this first couple of weeks of the Saturn transit through the sign of Aries. Like, this is, again, another influence to me that is bringing in like red flags for things having to do with like suicide and stuff like that, because the weight and the pressure of it all, like, we're hanging by a thread. Like, this 29 degrees of Saturn right now, again, like I think I said in my intro, this is energetically a lot of people like hanging by the thread of things. Like, the pressure could be overwhelming, again, like a responsibility to escape from something. And then, you know, once we get into Aries, like, that's the sign of the self. Like, things to do with suicide could be highlighted themes as we move through this next couple weeks. So there, I said it, and that's just, it is what it is, okay? But it's something, you know, if you know people that struggle with that type of thing, maybe just good to be aware of as we move forward through this next energy, because this next couple of weeks, because, you know, like, the sense of personal loss could be just something that people are dealing with when we've got the Saturn energy, which is the, like, our main frame on reality, coming to the conjunction with Neptune, which totally breaks down everything and blurs the lines, and then in the sign of Aries and the sign of Self. So, and there's a multitude of ways that that energy could manifest. We're going to be talking again on Wednesday, my next video, much more about that. But, you know, just, it's time to start introducing, you know, that tidbit of energy that we could see, you know, coming in now and over this next couple of weeks. After Saturn moves out of range of Neptune, it's not as much of a thing, but Saturn actually also will retrograde, and in September will re-enter the sign of Pisces. So I will tell you also, things that are coming up this week, the things that are concluding this week, the final endings where we're at, like, there could be some just like last dash of something, or they could like pop their head up one last time for some reason come September actually through November of this year, I think, is when Saturn is retrograding through the sign of Pisces, and then Saturn will have to go direct and exit Pisces again, and re-enter Aries. And that is when we're really, I think, going to, but then he'll have to come into conjunction with Neptune again. So we actually are going to be, to a small degree, redoing some of the energetic dynamics that we're moving through right now once we come to this upcoming fall. So maybe just something to put in the back of your mind. But in the meantime, we are at this like last couple of days of something, and so obviously things to do with loss, also like actually losing things or misplacing things. You could feel sort of like discombobulated this week, to be honest with you. There's not a very grounding influence going on whatsoever at all. You know, there really hasn't been a grounding influence for a while now. This, you know, at least entire 2025 year, backing into 2024, we really have not had stability playing out in earth signs. Saturn obviously also is, you know, the grounded manifest 3D world, and at that 29th degree is essentially not Mercury ruling the mind, okay, coming into a conjunction with Uranus at like very, very close to the fixed star El Gol, which has to do with losing your mind, losing your head. Like, there could be like a discombobulated sense of things. And, you know, the Saturn Neptune influence, a lot could be confusing, a lot could be clear or unclear, a lot could be disorienting. And then also this like maybe applied pressure, duty, responsibility, obligation to end something, to let something go, to leave something behind. Could also be a more like serious, somber, melancholy week. Depression could be an issue this week. Now, I say that, right? And it could be, but it's just, it's weird, because then on the other hand, like, we have this Venus-Mars trine going on also in fire signs, which is a highly creative, highly passionate, highly energized, like fueling, igniting passions, you know, romance in the air, these like synchronistic connections going on. And Jupiter squaring the nodes also while the sun is about to move into Gemini and Mercury conjunct Uranus. Like, there could be some very stimulating, like, mental stuff, conversations, interactions, connections, ideas, opportunities. There could be like epiphanies and flashes of insight, things kind of just like bam, hitting us, illuminating our mind, like outside of the box thinking again going on this week. Even perhaps like a sense of excitement in terms of possibilities and what could be. There's also perhaps like a growth oriented mindset going on. But then it's also weird, right? Because then we've got this like Saturn energy that is just like barely hanging in there. And that could be weighing things down, making things heavy, like making the glass look half empty instead of half full. And it probably has a lot to do, honestly, with the way that all of this energy is activating your chart. And it obviously is going to have a lot to do with your mental frame on reality as we move through this period of time, and whether or not you're trying to force and control things or putting yourself in a mental frame where you're open to the possibilities and ready to adapt and willing to go with the flow, and of a conscious understanding that this just is a period of a flux right now. But it's also a difficult energy, you know, so again, like all over the place. Or it could just be like rapidly going from one place to another. You may in 1 minute just feel like you can't possibly bear to go on another day, and then the next thing you know, you get a text message that like totally snaps you out of it and lights your fire and like reinvigorates your fuel and passion for life and living. So, I mean, things could go a lot of different ways this week, but they're likely not to be predictable, and they're likely not to be under our control. This is all highly karmic. As I said earlier, we've got karma like 3 ways going on right now. Saturn, South Node, Chiron, also Uranus. Uranus to me generally also is a karmic influence, but I see Uranus as like universe coming in to shake us out of it. It's like if we have not been able to figure it out, if we have not been able to get the lesson, like if we have not been able to break that karmic loop on our own, I often see the Uranian influence as that jolt that forces us to a point where we figure it out, wake up, open our eyes, like, you know, stop doing whatever it is we're doing. So in that way, to me, Uranus also is like a karma breaker type of energy. So, you know, accelerated awakening and change associated with the Uranian energy. But the past does seem to be being left in the past somehow this week, you guys. Like I said, it may come back up around again for a brief period of time next fall, but something is definitely ending here. I would be willing to wager that for all of us in some way, you know, whether it be something small or something that is really all encompassing and life defining, like there is something that is ending at this period of time. And it is, again, like the moon transiting through Pisces Tuesday through Thursday this week, as well as we inch closer to the movement of the transit from Pisces to Aries for Saturn. It's just adding to this emphasis on these endings that are underway. It's all about what is winding down this week, and the sudden change options or opportunities, or like the ideas of like what could be that are likely to come from it as well. As we move through the week, as I said, the sun will be leaving Taurus, entering the sign of Gemini. We currently still have Jupiter in the sign of Gemini. That's where Jupiter is squaring the nodes. So we do have, a stronger Gemini energy coming in this week, thinking about possibilities, talking about possibilities, our next step, what's going to come next. Jupiter square the nodes to me is indicating, again, like this process of expansion that has to do with like fate and karma, karmic release, the South Node in the sign of Virgo, but also this phase of spiritual growth that is kind of like catalytic for the changes that are happening right now as well. The North Node in the sign of Pisces. This is another element of it that I've been talking about ever since the North Node entered the sign of Pisces. The nodes of the moon transit a sign for a year and a half. So whenever every year and a half, essentially we change like cosmic lesson plans, collective lesson plans in terms of what the collective is evolving into energetically during that period of time. Right now, we have the North Node transiting the sign of Pisces. That would be an evolution and spiritual growth that is enabling some karmic release. South Node represents karmic release. And in the sign of Virgo, this is changes to our day-to-day lives and essentially like what we're getting out of what we're putting into things, the efficiency of our harvest, essentially. Okay, so it can lead to major lifestyle changes, dietary changes, work changes, just the way that we're using our energy, the way that we are living our day-to-day habits, routines, systems, organization. All of that type of stuff is likely to be undergoing some type of change as a result, ultimately, of some expansion and spiritual growth that is coming either on the front end or the back end of that. So there is some personal lifestyle upgrade I think that we are all going to initiate for ourselves somehow as we move through this period of time, which again is right in alignment with what the rest of the energy playing out right now in the context of our greater transition into the age of Aquarius is also suggesting and slash demanding of us. And again, our lives are going to start changing moving forward. Sudden change. Now let's bring the Mercury Uranus component of things into this, because we're talking about, and Jupiter in square to the nodes also, Jupiter is expansion. Jupiter is truth. Jupiter is blessings and good fortune. Like some type of positive growth or momentum is going to come through whatever it is that we are breaking through right now, okay? And then when we have Mercury coming into the conjunction with Uranus this week, that is insight, that is awakening, that is sudden shifts and changes to plans as well. But Mercury being the ruler of that South Node energy, Mercury being the ruler of the sign also where Jupiter is currently located, and the ruler of the sign where the sun is moving as we move through the week this week as well, that could have to do with sudden changes, Mercury and Uranus, again, in the regard of what that South Node or what that Jupiter squaring the nodes energy is bringing to us. Plans, schedules, spontaneous awakenings, sudden ideas, information, news, revelations, people surprising you perhaps with the changes that they are making to themselves or their lifestyles, or just what they have to say generally. This is probably also an extremely freedom seeking, like mental liberation, again, like outside the box energy. Jupiter brings the desire for expansion and growth and liberation and freedom and truth. And Uranus also really, really orients us towards anything that is void of restrictions in any type of way. So with both of those being other highlights that we've got going on this week, I would imagine, the need for freedom, also like the truth will set you free, like that type of sentiment could also hold some relevance this week somehow. But impulsive, spontaneous energy with the Uranian vibe, it's always probably going to be there as well. Thinking differently, focused on unusual or different plans, schedules, routines, or again, like making changes to the way that things are normally done. That's just where we're at, okay? And then the Venus-Mars situation in fire signs, in the trine, this is pushing people to pursue their desires. This is a motivation to align with our passion, to go after what we want. And Venus and Mars are like in an extra harmonious situation, because not only are they in a trine together, which is the most harmonious, like supported flow of energy between two planets, and it's exact all week, but they also, Venus is in the sign of Mars. And Mars is in the sign of Leo. He's not in the sign of Venus. He's in the sign of Leo, which is a sign of the sun, right? But the sun is in the sign of Taurus, which is the sign of Venus. So they're not in mutual reception, but they're like one planet out. They're pretty close. And I just think that this is a very aligned masculine and feminine dynamic of things. Now, whether it is like legitimate attraction of forces between like actual masculine and feminine, whether it has to do with the fusion or the balance or the integration of masculine and feminine within that comes to this more solidified state of wholeness somehow that is like fueling some type of creativity, you know, whether it has to do with the motivation to maybe pursue something like artistically or creatively or materially or financially. That type of thing could be going on with this energy as well, but like pursuing passions one way or another with Venus in the sign of Aries, and especially in the trine to Mars, yes, I would say that that is something that is largely on the table this week. Also, again, like maturity, responsibility, reason, mental coherence, these things could be lacking or just like not strongly present this week. Everything honestly feels a bit like herding cats, if you've heard that expression. So again, this is a collective state of flux that I think we're moving through. The course of things is being redirected to reduce blockages and limitations to organic growth and authentic value. A lot of things are being dissolved right now, and as I've said, to me, it is a good week to get out of town, go on vacation, take a break, try not to just put too much stress or pressure on yourself. Doing something fun that you find joyful or enjoyable, or that makes you happy, or that makes you feel alive, being passionate, being inspired, being creative and playful. There's a very, very playful energy that's also going on this week with all of the Gemini energy, and then we've got the Chiron influence, which can bring up the inner child, and Mars in the sign of Leo with Venus. This is like, you know, just wanting to have a good time, wanting to play around, wanting to be a bit like, you know, wild and free and stuff like that. And remember, there is this special magnetism present right now as well. People being drawn together for specific reasons that are for the purpose of growth somehow, or for the purpose of removing limitations and blockages to growth somehow. So another wild, weird, unusual, all over the place type of week. I want to apologize if you guys can hear like some weird construction oriented type sounds in the background. The only problem with my new house that I moved to is that there is a lumber mill, like a sawmill, that's down the road not far, and sometimes if I catch it at the wrong time, the mill will be on and it will, I just hope it's not too loud in the background. I try to plan these videos when I know that the mill's not going to be running. But today, I obviously mistimed that to an extent. So I hope that that is not too like annoying and loud in the background. But anyways, just a little bit more detail about the energy we have going on specifically to start the week on Monday. We have the moon in Aquarius. Remember, I said the moon will be in Pisces Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday this week as we conclude the Saturn and Pisces transit. But that means that on Monday, the moon is still transiting the sign of Aquarius. On Monday, the moon will come into a square with Mercury in Taurus, and then will also Monday into Tuesday move into a square with the sun and Uranus and their conjunction in the sign of Taurus before entering Pisces and activating that Saturn energy. So, you know, again, Monday's energy is kind of zeroing in on this Uranian tone to things and the changes that could be abruptly coming about as a result of the Sun-Uranus conjunction. I mean, the Sun-Uranus conjunction, we get that once a year, and it can be a time of like shaking some foundations. Just, it's, you know, notoriously expect the unexpected energy. Very unpredictable, sudden change, shocking twists and turns. And in the sign of Taurus, this could have to do with upsetting the peace, upsetting the comfort zone, shaking foundations, but it is removing blockages to growth. The moon coming through Aquarius, which is ruled by Uranus, and hitting that square could be activating that Sun-Uranus square. So there could be some more of this like jarring, maybe like unsettling, unexpected, unpredictable stuff that is going on. I would wager that Monday is probably not a day where things are gonna go according to plans and schedules. I mean, all week, Mercury rules plans, schedules, itineraries, the way that things are proceeding. And with Mercury coming into a conjunction with Uranus this week, things are probably not going to go according to plan. But that is also, I mean, the moon in Aquarius squaring Mercury and Taurus on Monday, same thing, and squaring the Sun-Uranus conjunction also Monday into Tuesday, same thing. So we are just getting dosed with this energy again and again as we move forward through this week. So that is why I'm saying don't, it's like if you can't beat them, join them. You know what I mean? Like, don't fight against the current this week. it's going to probably just leave you in a better place at the end of the week. So energy is shifting things around, making things unpredictable, and then coupled with this breakdown in barriers, boundaries, and like the substance or foundation that kind of had been holding everything together, with Saturn at the precipice of, you know, ending one thing and beginning an entirely new cycle. Another great week, you guys, for redesigning your life and your lifestyle. That's some of the primary advice and way that I think we can use this energy very constructively. And I've been talking about this throughout the course of my videos this past couple of weeks. If you have been needing to make a change, break a bad habit, you know, start a new workout situation, clean up your diet, reorganize, make things more efficient, make things more productive, make your systems more streamlined. Like, this is a time to do it. A lot is not supported right now, you guys, as I've been talking about, you know, really trying to hold everything together, not the vibe. But making small changes, figuring out how we can do things better, getting ideas, opening our mind, shifting our perspective, taking better care of ourselves, reorganizing our life and our lifestyles so that we can get more out of what we're putting into things. This is how you want to use this energy. And with Jupiter squaring the nodes, that South node, which is what is calling for this lifestyle upgrade and renewal right now, releasing the way that we used to do things, the way that we've always done things, and opening up to perhaps what are some better options, opportunities, ways of just living on the day-to-day that help us to get better outcomes from what we're putting into things. This is where you're going to be supported, okay? And we do have symbolism going on out there that is supported of just this very sentiment. Actually, on Tuesday, I don't know if I said, the sun enters Gemini on Tuesday. I don't even think that I've actually said that in the report so far. I think I just referenced that the sun was moving into Gemini this week. On Tuesday is the day, Tuesday, May 20th is when the sun enters the sign of Gemini. So the sun will be entering the sign of Gemini on Tuesday, just so I clarify that. And Mercury on that day, ruling the sign of Gemini, is at 19 degrees of Taurus. That Sabian symbol is a new continent is rising out of the ocean. And that really is like what this feels like. Like, that's a terrific, you know, if you're good with symbolism and you can like take a symbol and like empathize with it, sort of, to like understand like the feeling of that vibe, that to me is really quite in alignment with how this entire energy is feeling right now. I mean, we're talking about a literal shift and transition of ages that is underway on the greater cosmic level, but even in terms of our own lives and the chapters that are concluding right now, and you know what is to come next, it does feel like there is this emerging new reality coming. And it's so funny because this Pacific symbol is about like rising out of the ocean. And that's Pisces, right? Like, that's Neptune, the lord of the seas, the depths of the oceans. So we've got this like distancing or conclusion of the old world energy, while a new continent, a new paradigm, a new reality, a new era of our lives simultaneously emerges. And again, like, that's the position of Mercury as we start this week, ruling the sun in Gemini as of Tuesday, ruling the position of Jupiter in the square to the nodes of the moon. So like, we really are on the precipice of like some new reality, be it personal, be it collective, that, you know, is going to start becoming discernible as we move forward, okay? It's also, I've been like chuckling about the Uranus degree position right now at 28 degrees of the sign of Taurus. That's where the conjunction to the sun took place. That's probably where this Mercury conjunction will take place in a couple days. A woman pursued by mature romance, while we've got Venus and Mars in an exact trine, and we are moving Saturn into Aries, which is talking about this process of personal maturity and like personal accountability and all of that type of stuff. So I don't know, you guys, again, like, there could be, you know, karmic or destined or just like divinely aligned relationships that are coming in right now. I've been saying, be a bit open to the people that you spontaneously or, you know, synchronistically seem to be crossing paths with, because like, even if it's not for a romantic reason, there is a very purposeful partnership component to things right now. There is this magnetic energy that is drawing, that is facilitating some type of harmonization going on between masculine and feminine dynamics. So however that's working out, okay? So we've got that, and also the position of Chiron right now, who I said is in the exact aspect to Jupiter, while Jupiter squares the nodes, 26 Aries, a man possessed of more gifts than he can hold. That may be like something about this next couple weeks may be bringing us into a greater contact or realization or understanding of the truth of our own potential and what we can truly grow and become with it. Again, as I was saying, like opportunities opening up, shifting our mental frame, starting to see things differently, which could lead to more like options and like thinking outside of the box in ways perhaps that we haven't been able to in the past, that could have this impact of sort of redefining the way that things proceed moving forward as well. And we have Venus right now, who is of course ruling the position of Mercury, ruling the position of the Sun and Uranus until the Sun enters Gemini on Tuesday. That Sabian symbol is an Indian weaving a blanket. That's also like, whenever I hear, you know, the weaving of threads of something, it always to me throws it back to like the threads of time and like the greater cosmic story being woven together. So I don't know, I feel like that's also another indication that the strands are being, you know, put together in a very specific way right now in order to create some greater image or vision or picture or pattern that is gonna be representative of the way that things are going moving forward. So reinforcing, I feel like, the, you know, cosmically fated and karmic dimension of all of this that's going on right now as well. So that's what I'm going to say, you guys. I'm going to stop talking about the astrology now. It really just is sort of like this rerun, like over and over again, of these patterns and themes having to do, as I've said, with the breakdown on one hand, the emergence on the other hand, the transition underway, the state of flux, and I don't know, kind of like a bit of messiness or sloppiness that could be kind of in the meantime or in the in-between space. So that's what I think, you guys, about the astrology as we have it coming together to get our week started this week. It is, I mean, there could be some like critical or significant things going on, you know, like that Saturn energy is like, it's a big deal energy, and this has been representing a 30-year period of time, and we are about to begin, you know, another cycle that's going to characterize the next 30 years, at least in terms of the Saturnian energy. So this is a big, like, heavy hitting aspect and energy that we've got going on this week. The Sun also entering Gemini, bringing shifts, and then just like all of these exact activations, you know, that Venus Mars dynamic of things, just very, very interesting times. We have like a very, I mean, I don't know what other word I could use, but it is an interesting series of activations that are happening simultaneous to one another. So that's what we have. Now, in terms of our tarot reading for today, it's kind of funny. We've got two cards coming out here. We've got the 10 of Wands and the 8 of Pentacles. This could be, you know, bringing up something, some weight that we've been carrying, something that's been heavy. And that could be another way that this energy is manifesting, especially like Wednesday and Thursday this week, and when the moon is transiting Pisces, and especially on Thursday when the moon conjoins Saturn at the end of Pisces. Like, this could really be like putting us in a place where it is like unavoidable to like that we can't like not feel maybe just the weight of all we've been carrying for like a very long period of time. Like, things could feel very heavy. We could feel, you know, exhausted, worn out, just beat down, again, like hanging on by a thread. And that's what I feel like these cards are actually representing. It's like, no matter how hard we work, or, you know, it just goes on and on and on, and we've been, you know, carrying the burden, or like crossing the desert, or just enduring through some like really difficult stuff. And it's like, no matter how hard we work or like what we do, it just feels like maybe like the pressure or the overwhelm or the baggage, like it just never ends. But the 8 of Pentacles, this is also a card of self-mastery. Okay, this 10 of Wands is like, I think a lot of people, you know, take this for what you will, are not realizing the gains that they're actually making through what they're enduring in. Like, it's not obvious. With the 10 of Wands right here, like, this is such a big, heavy, you know, burden or task, or, you know, the things that were like obstacle, or, you know, whatever it is, work that we're involved in. Like, it's so daunting, you know, it's so overwhelming. It requires so much that we like can't even see. Like, we're not even looking in front of ourselves. Like, we're blinded to, with the Eight of Pentacles, like the level of self-mastery, what we're actually building, what we're actually gaining, the value of the, like, what we're putting in, like what it's actually going to be. I think this is largely indicating like an inability to see how far we've come, maybe, or who we've become in the process of all we've been through. Like, that could be coming up, and we could. And then on the back, we have the Ace of Wands in reverse. Like, we could be feeling very unmotivated, uninspired, weak, like not capable, like we've got nothing left to give. Okay, I feel like this is a very drained energy that is being indicated here. So again, like, especially as we move through Tuesday and Wednesday and Thursday of this week, like, it may, again, it's just like that hanging by a thread vibe. Like, we may feel like we're just barely in there and like nothing left to give, totally drained, totally tapped out, like we're ready to just like surrender, to throw in the towel. But this spread to me is reminding us that no, you know, even if it seems like nothing's ever come from what we put in, or like it's just never gonna end, it's gonna end. Something's gonna end. Trust me, it's gonna end. But there is like a hidden element of self-mastery, or of value, or of something meaningful that we have built, that we have acquired, that we have become in the process of, you know, whatever we've been doing or going through or pushing through, maybe without noticing, you know, who we've become in the process. So that's what I feel like this tarot message is saying for us today. So if you resonate with that, let me know. We are going to get one final message now, one piece of guidance or advice. I'm going to ask God, Spirit, Universe, what it is that we should keep in mind. What should we remember? What should we tell ourselves as we move through our week this week? And our card says, don't fight it. Release those subject to bondage. Hebrews 2:15. Whatever type of restriction or bondage you find yourself experiencing, don't fight against it mentally. No, God will open up a new door for you and lead you to peace and freedom. So yet again, man, these synchronicity cards, this is like the third or fourth video in a row I think I've done where it's like the card that has come out. I mean, they always, for years now, have been very validating in terms of whatever energetic blueprint we have playing out. But I'm telling you, like, they have been really putting the exclamation point on the end of things over this past couple of readings. And yet again, I feel like super clutch, like, information to close out this reading. So there it is, you guys. Don't fight it. As I was saying earlier, like, trying to force things, trying to control things, trying to go against the tides of things is probably not going to be in our best interest this week. And it's literally talking about restriction and bondage, and like, things are breaking down along those lines. Okay, whatever type of restriction or bondage you find yourself experiencing, this 10 of Wands, right? Don't fight against it mentally. No, God will open up a new door for you and lead you to peace and freedom. And that, to me, is what this Jupiter nodal square and the Venus-Mars trine are also, and the Chiron sextile are, and the Uranus activations, conjunctions are also indicating at this period of time. So there it is, you guys. Message from the stars, message from the cards. I hope you liked the video. If you did, please give me a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, you guys. Share it with your friends if you think that they would also enjoy this type of astrology content. Leave me comments. I am so grateful for your presence on my channel. Let me know if you guys are having experiences out there that line up with what I'm talking about in these videos. That's very valuable information to me. And come back with me on Wednesday as I said, we are going to be focusing in on this Saturn cycle and, you know, when it started last time. Obviously it's ending now, where the beginning of our new Saturn cycle is likely to lead us, the themes that are probably going to come through as Saturn begins to transit through the sign of Aries, and more. So I'll be back to talk all about it, you guys. You don't want to miss it. I will see you next time. Have a really beautiful start to your week, and until next time, bye guys.